Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. Dave and I have hastily gathered amid the news Mohamed Salah has signed a new 2-year deal with the Reds to remain at Anfield and end months of speculation over his future. It'll keep the third highest goal scorer in the club's history at Anfield until after his 35th birthday, giving him ample time to chase down more records and trophies on the way to a decade-long stay at Anfield. Dave, it's become clear in the last few days that announcements for both Mo and Virg were imminent. Getting Mo in the bag this Friday is just terrific news. It gives everyone a lift heading into the weekend just when it was needed.
Yeah, great news. A little bit surprised that Mo was the one signing before Virgil. I always had it in my head that was going to be the first one done. It seemed to be like the least complicated one, but it seems like they've both been done, and it's just a case of how they were going to announce it. So there was talk today Virgil might get announced the same day as Mo. They're never going to do that. They're not going to take the shine off it. And also, it's all about content these days, isn't it? So I think Virgil's probably going to be sometime next week, assuming that all of the reports are right. And Virgil himself, when he says progress is being made, you kind of think, okay, that more or less means it's done, because if it was a little bit of progress, he wouldn't say anything. But Mo was quiet about it, whereas Virgil was the one who spoke last week. And then, gets announced. And I've not seen too many details posted about it yet. I know it's 2 years. I've not seen anything about like salary or whatever, but obviously these things drag out because Mo is going to get every last penny that he can get before he signs his contract, which is absolutely fine. That's not a criticism. And the club are going to be trying to keep it as low as they possibly can until eventually you come to a compromise, which is obviously what's happening now. I think the 2 years, Mo probably would have wanted 3. I think 2's right, because I know he's superhuman, but he is 32. I don't know when he's 33 soon, I think.
It's in 2 months. He's 33 in June.
So by the time next season starts, he's 33. I think 3 years, because of the money involved as well, I think 3 years would be a risk from the club's point of view in terms of how much they'd be paying. 2, yeah, great. That's ideal. He's not going to fall off a cliff in that time. Maybe there's an option in there for a 3rd. I'm sure all this will come out in the wash. But yeah, it's great for Mo, because the thing that, for me, I was thinking about this today, after he'd signed, and where he's a real rarity is that most superstars that we've had, not even just superstars, but world-class players, great players, whatever, most of them at some point would be looking at, if the opportunity comes to go to, look at Trent now, for example, Real Madrid, Barcelona, they're probably the only 2 now, but in the past there was other big clubs, some of them in England. We've seen Torres left us for Chelsea, so we've had a lot of, Suarez would have gone to Arsenal, ended up going to Barcelona. So you've got all these players who, for them, Liverpool wasn't enough for whatever reason. Now, in some situations, we were shite, and those players are there's no point me staying here. I'm not going to win anything. I need to move on. So, there is mitigating circumstances for that. But I think, and it's easy from Mo's point of view, is we have been, other than 1 or 2 down seasons, generally in this whole time we've been here, he's been competing for the biggest trophies and that. But still, he could have gone anywhere during his time that he's been here. There will have been clubs that would have taken him if he'd shown any interest in that. He's never really shown any indication that Liverpool wasn't enough for him. It was always just about, well, as long as the money's right, as long as you give me what I deserve, I'm not interested in going anywhere else. And I think that's the key thing for me, is all these other great players, even Steve, who stayed twice, he came close to going. Now, again, part of that's to do with felt like he could win trophies elsewhere. But, it's the same with Mo. Real Madrid are winning the Champions League pretty much every year. And the easy thing to do is to say, oh, well, if I got the chance to go there, I'm going to go there. But Mo's never really shown any interest in being anywhere other than Liverpool. So I think that's probably my main takeaway from it, really, is that he deserves great credit just for the fact that Liverpool's always been enough for him. Obviously, you've got to be competitive. The money's got to be right. But if those boxes are ticked, he's not interested in going anywhere else. I also think the same's true of Virgil as well, to be fair. Because when Virgil came here, he had like loads of clubs trying to sign him. He chose to come here, and he's only ever wanted to be here as well. So those two of the greatest players we've ever had. They've both had great seasons. Yeah, and tying them down, it's massive, especially because you have got to have a succession plan for these players. They are going to have to be replaced, but replacing them while they're still here is a lot easier than like if they'd both walked away this summer. Imagine if they'd have both left this summer. You've got to replace two of the greatest players you've ever had. It's going to cost a fortune to get anywhere near their level of player. But you've still got loads of other areas of the team that like there's uncertainty over, not necessarily just the team but the squad. So we are going to have to do a fair bit this summer. And if you were also having to replace like those two, good luck with that. It would have been like a long period of rebuilding. But now you keep those two in place. It just makes everything else a lot easier now in terms of planning for next year, what they want to do. It also makes it easier persuading players to come in. Maybe not a left-sided centre-back. That might be a little bit more difficult than it would have been, but still. No, I just think like you get those deals done, it makes everything else easier for planning. Only thing I'd say, and this is not like a criticism or like a negative, but it is something that I do think everybody needs to be like, that everybody at the club needs to be aware of this, is that the days of just picking Mo every single game, week in, week out, game after game, 90 minutes every game. No, that's got to stop because he's at the age he's at. You can't do that. You are going to have to, at some point, he's going to have to slow down a little bit in terms of games and minutes. And that should be from next season onwards. You still play him in the big games, the important games. But this notion of like, he starts every league game and more or less every Champions League game. And not just that, he plays 90 minutes in all of them. And when you get to the second half of the season, there always feels like there's first half of the season, Mo is just incredible, putting up ridiculous numbers. And it always feels like there's like a level of drop-off in the second half of the season. Now, there's other factors involved, Ramadan, AFCON, these things play a part as well, obviously. But I do think to maintain the level that he's at, we are going to have to manage him a little bit more carefully. That's probably the wrong word because he can play these games. It's not like he's getting injured when he's playing game after game. But come on, you've got to have a succession plan in place. So there's got to be somebody brought in who's maybe going to eventually take over from Mo. They're going to get some games and Mo will be better for it because he's not getting run into the ground. Because you look at him the last couple of months, we don't know if that's Ramadan or if it's just to do with the sheer volume of games he's played at the age he's at. But yeah, that's what I want to see. 2 more years of Mo. Let him break as many records as he can possibly break. If he's still going strong at the end of that, then you extend it again. Absolutely no issue with that. But don't be playing him every single minute of every single game anymore because I don't think that's going to be very productive.
So it's going to be beneficial for us as a team and as a club as well because, like, first of all, he does need this rest and it will be beneficial for him to have that break every now and again. Hopefully we see sort of more explosiveness from him again in this part of the season as opposed to now where he kind of looks a little bit out of sorts. But it's also going to give us the opportunity to find different solutions. We've been heavily reliant on him this season, and you could argue that it's largely his impact in the big moments that has us in the position that we're in, but that's unsustainable as well. So, I think what you're saying about getting in different solutions also applies to sort of working within the squad we have to make it a little bit more balanced in terms of how we go about winning these games.
Yeah, so, the last 7 games, I think we need to see Chiesa playing a part just so you can make a decision on it. Because if he's going to be here next year, well, we need to see him. We need to see him play. So I'm not saying he should be starting games. Mo's still going to be starting, but you get to 60, 65 minutes. Maybe that's the point where you say, all right, Mo, you have a rest now. Let's have a look at Chiesa. And then moving beyond that, I don't know, maybe like the Bento comes in and blows everyone away in pre-season, or they look elsewhere and, somebody comes in who can play both sides maybe, so it's an option to rest Mo. they don't have to play on the left wing, because the left side of players we've got now basically need to play on the left. You know, they're not as effective when they do play on the right. So if you get somebody in who can play both sides, obviously that's going to help. But I just think you've got to help Mo out a little bit, and he might not like it, like not playing every game, but for him to still be at his best and producing consistently, just be a little bit more careful with him. There's no shame in bringing him off after 70 minutes. No, Mo, there's no shame coming off after 70 minutes. I just think he's been incredible this year, and if we want to keep him at this level or close to it, manage his minutes over the next couple of years, because there's plenty of records there for him to break, and that'll be a big reason why he's staying as well, because this is what I've said all along. It's like, well, where's he going to go? You know, the thing, what we know about Mo is he was never going to go to Saudi. He's too, like, competitive for that. He's not going to go, at this age, there is no way he's going to walk away and go to Saudi, no matter how much money they were offering him. That was never, like, so we couldn't even really use that as leverage against the club, because the club were like, yeah, you're not going there, mate. We know you're not. So, what were his other options? Barcelona, like, love a freebie. Real Madrid love a freebie, but they're well stocked in the position he plays. They're not going to shell out that kind of salary, so they were off the table. PSG have moved away from the whole, like, older superstar element of players. That, you know, they're a young team now. So then you're looking, well, yeah, there's maybe Premier League clubs he could have gone to, but
Probably that means MLS as well. He could have gone to.
Yeah, again, but
you know,
it's MLS.
Step
is like
up from Saudi, but not necessarily.
Exactly. It's a step up from Saudi, but he's still 2-3 years away from in his mind probably thinking, I'll play over there. So again, it didn't really have any leverage in terms of, like, Liverpool thinking, like with Trent, for example. Liverpool are like, well, Real Madrid want him. You know, he's probably going to go there. That makes it difficult negotiating. And Virgil as well. I think Virgil could go anywhere. You know, I think most clubs would still take Virgil now. Mo was a slightly different case where I don't think he had huge leverage, and that's why Liverpool were quite happy to just let it play out as long as it has, because you're not worried about he's going to go elsewhere, because they know him. They know how he thinks and how motivated he is by, like, legacy and records. Now, he could still get some Premier League records if he'd signed for, I don't know, Newcastle or somebody like that. But it's not going to be the same. He was never going to do that. You know, he was never going to go to another English club. There wasn't really that many other options because of how he thinks. You know, it's not all about the money for him. Yes, he'll want like a good wage. He's going to want to be well paid because he's a superstar. But it's not all about that. And it's also, he's so driven and obsessed by breaking records. And if you walk away from Liverpool now, you're effectively starting again somewhere. Now, what is he on our all-time list? He's
third.
So
he's third on 243 goals, and his next in line is Roger Hunt, who has 285. So you'd think, like, in the next, if he 220 goal seasons you know, that he's gonna get that for sure. Yeah. I'd say. Yeah, which is incredible, really.
It is. So there you go. You know, that's going to be in his head. He can get to number 2. He probably thinks in the back of his mind he's got a shot at getting to catching Rushy, but that just seems, you know, let's just catch Roger Hunt first and then like reassess things. But again, so he's got that in his mind, as well as, like, what other records which we're not even thinking about. I mean, it's in this, like, the first few months of the season, it felt like every single game he'd score and someone would say, oh, he's now broken this record, or he's the first player to do this. There was something every single game. So, and he loves all that. So now he's got, like, 2 more years to break more records. And winning the league this year, he'll be hoping next year maybe we have, like, a better run at the Champions League than we did this year. So Mo's just motivated by that, just legacy, records, success, trophies, and him signing it's great for him and it's great for us as well.
In terms of where we recognise him as well among the pantheon of greats, like, having a 10-year stay at the club is significant as well. That kind of bumps you up even another level, I think. Like, you look at people like Suarez, who was here, as great as he was only there for like three or four seasons.
Yeah, no.
You know, so doesn't quite meet the criteria on that stage for someone who is just sort of that bona fide, undeniable, all-time like great. You know, like you look at Rushy and you look at Gerrard and Kenny and people like
John
that.
Barnes,
Like
you're in that company now, not just in terms of greatness, but longevity as well.
yeah, definitely. And you know, he'll have been here for 10 years. He would have probably played injury if he stays injury free. It'll probably go up to over 500 games for the club as well. So so yeah, that lifts him. That lifts him even higher. I've always said that he's the best player that I've seen play for us. Like to have him for 10 years as well is such a privilege. Like that's a quarter of my time following Liverpool or being alive even. You know, and I just feel really lucky that we're going to get to keep watching him for another couple of years, keep enjoying what he does, and hopefully like it continues to bring success as it has done for much of his time here, really, albeit some of it, you know, not as well rewarded as it should have been.
Yeah, but because of the cheats up the road. You know, that's the thing. It's like he should have more trophies than he's got, and also just fucking Real Madrid in finals. See, I don't want to talk too much about Trent at all on this one because I'm sure he'll have his own one when he fucks off. But the whole like, if you can't beat them, join them thing. That's what kind of sticks in the craw with Trent going there. Whereas you know, Mo and Virgil have never done that. They've wanted to stay here and win, basically. So
yeah, as long as we're meeting their ambitions,
exactly.
They're happy to try and help us achieve them, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, the grass isn't greener for them. And I do think that's a big thing, which is going back to what I said at the very start. But yeah, I do. I think that's like it's a big, in terms of like legendary status and all like stuff you were talking about then. The fact that they could have played anywhere, but chose to play the careers here, that counts for a lot as well for me. In terms of like, you think he's the best player you've seen, it's obviously it's just all subjective, it's down to opinion. Like, is not for me. But what I do think is that it's because I'm kind of in the moment with it now. I think once like his career's finished and the dust settled on it and I'm looking back, I think I'll probably view him I'll probably view him more highly than I do now. That's not the right way of saying it, because obviously I view him extremely highly. He is one of the greats, but I do think it's like once you're in the moment. So like, for example, I'm looking at like, I'm watching him every game now. So like the last few weeks, he's had some stinkers. So it's natural that like it plays a part in your thinking. Whereas I'm not remembering like any bad games that like John Barnes or Stevie had, and they must have had bad games, but you don't remember them when like
later in his career. Barnes, certainly by this age, he was having stinkers.
But that's not what you remember when you think back to Steven Gerrard, John Barnes, Kenny Dalglish. You don't remember that. You remember like all the great games and the great goals. But because we're in the moment with Mo, it's different for me now. But I do think like once the dust settled on his career and I'm looking back on it, I'm not going to remember like Fulham last week when he was getting his lunch money robbed by fucking Bassey all the time. That's going to be long gone. I'm going to be remembering like the amazing individual goals against like City and against Spurs. You know, the hat tricks against Watford. All like these things that jump out.
Yeah,
that's
kind
what
of the
I
way
remember.
that we look. Kind of the way we look at Bobby now. Like it's completely wiped from the memory how he was quite bad for like a couple of years.
As
like
well, to some extent.
Like a shadow of themselves.
Yeah.
At one point with Bobby, I think it got quite sad looking at him in the form that he was in. He was just like an absolute. It was right after Alisson baptized him. Yeah. He just went really, really shit for like 6 months or so. And I think I said on here that it was sad looking at him in this condition. Yeah. You don't see any of that now. You don't hear anybody talk about it now. All you see is like the moments of magic and putting smiles on everybody's face, and you think of his song and all that kind of stuff. So you're absolutely right. Like, no, you don't see highlights of the games where John Barnes misplaced a pass or failed to beat a defender for the whole game.
And you don't remember it. It's like wiped from your memory, as well as not seeing clips of it. You just don't remember. Like, unless it's a really high-profile game, like with Stevie, for example. I remember like the terrible performance in Cardiff in the League Cup final, but that's only because it was such a high-profile game. It was against Chelsea, and at the time, all the talk was always going to be signing for them. But I don't remember any other bad games he had, and I know that he had like bad games, but it's not something when you look back that's not what stays in your memory. So with Mo, you know, like I say, I think I'll view him completely differently once he stopped playing, and I don't know whether I'll go as far as to say he's our greatest player. I suppose it depends what he does in the next couple of years. But yeah, I'd never say to someone who says that he is, I'd never say, "Oh no, you're talking shite, you're wrong." I think it's a valid opinion. Absolutely,
Yeah, it's kind of undeniable as well from a numbers perspective as well, isn't it? Now, from a numbers perspective, a longevity perspective, he's won leagues and European Cups. He's won it. One of the criteria is winning everything with the club. He's done that. Yeah. You can say that he's not. You can say that he's not your greatest player ever or one of your favourites or whatever, but it's undeniable that he's valid in the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And he already is, regardless of what happens in the next 2 years. I would never say to someone he's not our greatest player. I wouldn't. It doesn't mean I agree, but it's not an unreasonable shout at all.
And it's what you said as well about being happy to stay with the club. I mean, I'm a bugger for this, but like sometimes I'll look at Gerrard and my mind automatically goes to the time he tried to sign for Chelsea after we'd won the European Cup. Like that's stuck with me, and that's like a black mark against him. I know he overcame it multiple times over, and in the end, it's kind of undeniable what he gave for the club and how much he loved the club and how much he still loves the club. But there's still that like sort of, for me, like a slight black mark against his name for doing that in that time period when Mourinho was managing them, when the rivalry with them was so great, when like Lampard and Terry and Ashley Cole and all those knobheads were just like hated figures for us. Like it was a proper north-south divide, us against them. Like Cockney wide boys with their flash Russian millions versus like a working class Liverpool kid wanting to go there. Like that stuck with me. Like I think Mo will have that in his favour as well. That like he stayed the whole time, and as you said, there was never really a question of him wanting to be anybody else, as long as his ambitions and his value was met. And I think that's important, and it's something that Trent is not going to be able to say in this conversation anymore.
Yeah, no, it counts for a lot. It really does. I think it's not spoken about enough, really. The fact that he could have like chosen to go to other clubs. He could have gone anywhere he wanted. He was, over the time he's been here, easily top 10 player in the world pretty much the entire time. You can argue about how high on the list he should be, but he's always been one of like the top 10 superstar players in world football throughout his time here, which generally means you can go wherever you want, and he's never shown any desire in going anywhere other than staying here, and that does count for an awful lot for me. On the Stevie thing, I mean, you're not. I'm not saying like you're wrong to think that way. Not at all. It's a totally valid viewpoint. I'm over that. It doesn't bother me at all. But that's not to say that you're not making a valid point, because it is a valid point, and that's how you feel, which is fine. At the time, I was fucking hell at the time. Like, I was absolutely livid with him. But time heals all wounds, I suppose. I just look back and think he didn't go. He could have done. He could have gone to not just Chelsea again. Like, Real Madrid was trying to sign him for several years, and he never shown any interest in going there either. So, again, and it's all about legacy. Like, your legacy is going to be affected. So if Trent does go this summer, he'll be looked at as like, some will say great player, some will say very good player, but left. And to do it, well, you haven't even got the excuse of leaving to compete for trophies, because we are competing for trophies, we're winning trophies, he's won trophies. And like the argument that, well, he's won all there is to win and now he wants a change of scenery, well, that's fine. He's perfectly entitled to do that, but it is going to affect your legacy and how people
comes
view
at a cost, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does come exactly. It comes at a cost.
You have to pay the piper for that.
Yeah,
but I think with Trent now, he kind of, not to get too off topic, but he joins the likes of like McManaman and Owen, doesn't he? Like, clearly great players for the most part. I mean, Michael Owen, Chester, much of a muchness. Local Northwest lads, put it that way. There's a proximity to the area who were undeniably great, but chose greener pastures and hence aren't looked at in the same way anymore.
Yeah, not even. It's with them. In a lot of people hate Michael Owen. Some people don't like him. The vast majority are probably just totally indifferent towards him. Very, very few people will say they still love Michael Owen, and it's sad. But and I do think like a lot of it's unfair, but he's brought some of it on himself as well, and not so much when he left, but stuff that he's said and done since has not done him any favours. He's like got no self-awareness at all. McManaman was like, he was actually justified in what he did. Liverpool tried to sell him a year before. He was justified in what he did, but it doesn't matter. You're not gonna come back and get the same sort of welcome as when the club forces you out. It's just the way it is. It's like if you choose to leave, you're viewed differently, and especially as like a local lad, and especially like in the case of McManaman and potentially Trent, you leave for nothing. It's just not going to go down well. And you can rationalise the decision and defend it. There'll be people saying he's entitled to do what he wants. He's absolutely entitled to do what he wants, and if he wants to go to Real Madrid, he's perfectly entitled to do that. But people are perfectly entitled to not be thrilled about that, and it will tarnish his legacy, and it will affect how he's viewed in future years, if and when he comes back for whatever reason, Legends Games or whatever. You've got to be aware of that. And I don't know whether Trent's thought this through fully or what. I'd like to think he has. I mean, Carragher's mentioned it several times publicly, and he's probably said it to give Trent something to think about. He's like, your legacy's important, and you are going to be viewed differently if you choose to go. So that's the way it is. But as I say, don't really want to get into like too much on Trent because, for one, we don't know what's happening. I do think Mo signing and Virgil being on the brink of signing, it points towards the fact that Trent's going purely because of the money aspect of it. So if you're looking, if based on what
you
these
said
players,
all along it wouldn't be all three, didn't you?
Yeah,
because
they're interlinked. It's all been interlinked all right throughout. You've got to just look at it purely from like how the club will view this with the money situation. If we're to believe what Mo was on, you'd assume he's going to be still on there or thereabouts. Virgil's going to be on more or less the same as Mo, I would have thought. Trent was apparently asking for fucking stupid money. Like the word is he was asking for £500,000 a week, which is like, you're not going to pay a right back £500,000 a week. Now I do.
That's because they knew they weren't. You knew
exactly.
they weren't going to pay that.
That's if he's asked, if it's true and that's what he was asking for, he's probably just thought, I can't, like, if I ask for 250 or 300 a week, they might agree to that, and then what do I do? Whereas if you just go in with like a ridiculous demand that they're never going to pay, that gives you the out where you say, well, they didn't want to give me the money that I can get if I go to Real Madrid, regardless of whether Real Madrid pay him that amount or not. We're not going to know what he's getting. There'll be reports of it, but no one actually knows.
And the signing on fee and all that kind of bollocks.
So it does feel like he's maybe gone in so high that he knows they can't meet it. But if Liverpool are negotiating with all three, the problem is, say like you agree with two of them, but the one who you really wanted to sign the most is the one that you haven't been able to so far do a deal with. You got to look at what like the combined wage of those three players would be, and you're probably looking at like something like 65 million quid a year for the three of them.
It's easily £1 million a week, isn't it?
So yeah, at minimum, and potentially more depending on if like they were to do a deal with Trent. So that's what I mean. It's like, are they going to sanction that kind of outlay on three players? Unlikely. I just don't see it working like that. So it was always a case of, this is why it's gone on for as long as it's gone on, because they couldn't just say to all three players, yeah, we'll give you what you're asking, let's do it. They were never going to do that. And it looks like the compromise that's being reached is they've probably just given up on Trent now because they either know he's going to Real Madrid, or they've just thought he's not coming down from his wage demands and there's no way we're going to pay him that, so we may as well just crack on and get the others done.
I think
That's how it looks. That's how it looks to me.
Yeah, definitely. I saw a picture. You never know whether anything's real on the internet. Even just this year, like the last few months of non-genuine video and images that's being created through AI is scary, terrifying. I work with this stuff every day, so it's terrible. But I saw a picture of Trent walking into the training ground with like Bobby's and Stevie's books, one in a bag, one in his arm, and people were like, "Oh, hold on, is he having second thoughts here?" I just thought he's like returning his library books.
Oh no, you know what that is?
So he doesn't get the fine.
I actually know what that is because I've just watched the video today. The club put a video out. It's Trent and Robbo doing like a Dragon's Den type thing. So there's three like small businesses, like three small businesses coming in pitching ideas. And they had to pick which one's the winner. And the one that they picked was like, it was a bookshop in Crosby. The woman was saying about like how important it is to get kids to read and how it affects the futures and all this. And Trent was like, when he was a kid, he was like massive into his books. He was like a big Harry Potter and Narnia fan when he was like, growing up and that. So straight away, Trent's like, no, that I'm all in on that, like, getting kids to read and stuff. And part of like the deal was like that. She said it would be great for kids if they see like players going into training carrying a book, showing like that they're reading. It's like it will make kids think, oh, Trent reads books, I'm going to read books. So that's probably what you've seen. He's walking in carrying a book. It's probably just that, based on like the video that was put out today.
All right, fair enough.
The other two business ideas, by the way, one was like a mini dishwasher. And the other one was like this guy had like animal bones, crushed animal bones made into like a soup, and it's supposed to aid recovery and all of this stuff. So they were the other two ideas that were pitched, but they went with like the bookshop in Crosby.
Fair enough.
Totally off track here, but yeah, that's what
that's
it
my
was.
fault.
But just we've got to quickly mention when you said about AI. The Darwin video. Oh my god.
Oh my god. So weird.
It's days ago and I still don't even know what to say about it. It's just,
for anybody who hasn't seen it, he posted this video with the caption, it's not how many times I fall, it's how many times I rise, or words to that effect, which, would surprise me if he had that grasp of English. But the video was an AI generated video of historical sort of like Greek Romanesque statues forming from him scoring goals. It was odd and weird, and I'm not sure what message he was trying to send at all. But yeah, it's out there. He put it out there. Just another sort of addition to the mad world of Darwin Núñez.
The only thing I can say is it was something. I don't know what it was, but it was something.
Finally, before we go, there's been the owners are getting sort of, as always, the owners have been getting dogs abuse for weeks over the contracts and sign-ins and this kind of stuff. How much credit do you give them for putting pen to paper on this? Because we know what they're like. We know that the age profile is way above what they would usually consider. You know that they've been resistant to making this kind of deal in the past, and have been right to do so, given the way some of our players have fallen off. Influential figures in the Klopp era, your Sadios, Bobbies, Henderson, Fabinho, players like that who probably were extended. At least one of them was extended, given a contract when they shouldn't have been. Like, do you give them credit for making the decision they've made on Mo, and probably making the decision they've made on Verge, even though probably every fibre of their being tells them that they would prefer to move on and rebuild with younger players on lower wages?
It depends on who we're talking about. If we're talking about FSG, I don't give them credit or blame for any of that stuff, because they hire somebody to make those decisions. I very much doubt that John Henry,
so let's say that
gives a shit whether Mo Salah gets a contract or not. I don't think he give a fuck. He's just hired Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes to do that. Now, we know how Michael Edwards feels about players over 30 getting deals. And in an ideal world, that's right. Like my dad's always said this, going back to Shankly. My dad's like, once a player hits 30, that's it. You start looking to move them on and replace them. But things have changed. You know, your 30-year-old now is not your 30-year-old in like the 70s. It's not. It's totally different with like fitness levels
they're not on
and
the
sports
Steve
science
Nicol
and stuff.
diet anymore.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. I'm still on the Steve Nicol diet, but but you know what I mean. It's like I think you've got to move that number up now. Like the basic principle is still right. It's like you got to be careful. Like what you don't want, and especially if you've got quite a lot of players in that age group, you don't want your team getting old together, and then you've got to replace too many. So we kind of had that, and then we replaced the midfield. So now you've still got like, you know, you still got Robbo, who's going to be phased out. I don't think Robbo's going to be moved on, but you know, he's probably going to be phased out next season in terms of not playing every game. Alisson, I in my gut, I think they're going to sell Alisson this summer, but you know, that's for another day. I do think that's a distinct possibility. So probably if they're looking at that, they're like, well, okay, we're signing a new left back. Robbo will just be like good to have around the place, maybe for another year, and then they'll look at moving him on. Alisson, they've already signed his replacement, whether that's for this season or next season, we'll see. So you can give contracts to a couple of your older players, especially because they are exceptions to the rule based on like fitness levels and performance levels. I mean, Mo is not your typical 33-year-old. And irrespective of like, and with Virgil, I'm not even talking about like physical conditioning or any of that, which is all spot on. I'm not questioning that. But with Virgil, it's like, well, he's just that good. He's got like another 2-3 years at this level at least, especially the position he plays. Centre backs, you know, look at Thiago Silva was like 39, 40, and he was still really fucking good. So there's no reason why Virgil can't be like 36 and still be like the best defender in the league. So it makes sense to do it, and the other reason why financially it makes sense to do it is because if they leave, if we hadn't renewed those two contracts, you've got to replace those players. How much is it going to cost to find somebody to come in and replace Virgil van Dijk? First of all, you
with
can't
no
replace
guarantee
him.
that he'll be anywhere near as good.
Yeah, highly unlikely that they won't. They're not going to be that level. But you've still got to go and sign somebody to come in and plug that gap. So look around, like, well, the lad at Bournemouth's 19 and they're talking 50 million for him. Now, we might actually sign him, and there's a lot of reasons why it would make sense to go and do that deal, because now he could play alongside Virgil, he could learn from him, he can fill in for Virgil sometimes. It would make sense to do that. But if Virgil had gone, what are you going to do then? You're looking at, like, so he's 50 million. Who else is out there? Well, then you look at, like, you know, they really like Branthwaite apparently, but yeah, good luck trying to do that deal. And even if you could do it, again, the price that Everton are demanding for that. So it's going to, financially, it's not like you'd be gaining by getting their wages off the books by not giving them a contract, because you've still got to go out and sign someone, and it's going to cost a lot of money to do that. So I don't think FSG give a fuck about any of that. It's like, that's not their job. They pay someone to make those decisions.
They set the budget, don't they?
Yeah, the budget's there, and then it's like, well, you do what you want to do within that budget. So
I
highly doubt that.
When I
but there will be people.
You know.
But there will be people who will say that they are involved in that stuff, and I just don't think they will be. I just think John Henry's not going to give a shit who gets paid what. It's purely going to be, this is your budget. That's what you got to work with. You deal with it as you see fit, and you'll be judged on your results. I think that's that's how that will work. So, but Michael Edwards has obviously gone against, because it is Michael Edwards. I know people say Richard Hughes, but he's not got the final say. He has to check everything with Michael Edwards. I don't care what anybody says. Michael Edwards, if Michael Edwards did not want Mo Salah getting a contract, it wouldn't matter what Richard Hughes agreed with Mo. It wouldn't get signed off. So they've obviously, between them, they've come to the decision it makes sense to do those two deals, which it does, as long as it's... What I never went along with was people saying, pay him what he wants. No, you can't do that, because you don't know what he wants. So that's like, what if he was asking for $500,000
a
a week?
fan, though, isn't it, to say that kind of stuff?
I know, but
like,
it's just not...
The irrational football fan brain.
Yeah, as long as what he's asking for is not excessive, if it's a fair value, then pay it by all means. But there has got to be a line in the sand where, like, you're not going above that no matter what, which is what will have happened. And Mo will have had a number that he won't have been going below, and then they've met somewhere in the middle, which is great. And probably the length of contract may have been a sticking point. The club will not have wanted to do like a guaranteed 3, but if they've settled on 2, and so they should. Mo should back himself for 2 years. If he believes he's worth a 3-year contract, because he'll still be great in year 3 of that contract, we'll sign the 2 and prove to them. Just back yourself, which is what ultimately he's done.
He's probably backed himself a little bit as well in terms of like the structure of the money, you'd think as well. Like Chris Bascom is reporting that it's 25 million a season, which if you break that down into like what it might be per week, that's like 400 odd grand a week. So it would seem on paper that he's got a pay rise, but it's possible that a lot of that is kind of like bonus related and
incentivized.
Incentivized. So I think they've probably come to this arrangement that although he kind of wanted a pay rise, you do get more money if you keep delivering the goods, which is the right way to approach these things. And we'll never know the full breakdown of it. Like there's been loads of arguments on the forum this week about who's getting paid what and what the wage bill is at other clubs and all this silly toxic shit that just goes around in circles over and over again. But we'll never know. But it would seem if the reported figure of what his contract is, that won't be like his basic pay. It'll be heavily incentivized, you'd think.
Plus also we don't know. I assume, I don't know how these things work, but if he signed that contract, Mo's agent has got to be getting he's got to be getting a fee, because agents, like, if it's in their interest to make players move, because they get part of they get a fee for negotiating deals and stuff, so they must still be getting something like that when they negotiate a new contract. Otherwise, it's not in the agent's interest to have his client staying at a club. So there's that. Plus, Mo will presumably get a signing on fee as well. So that 25 million, maybe for all we know, maybe like 5 million of that is a signing on bonus, and then the rest is salary. We don't know how any of that stuff breaks down, but the deal is worth potentially 25 million a year. So we don't know how much of that's incentivized. We don't know what's signing on fee. So it's all just guesswork from our point of view, isn't it? We don't know.
Definitely. And one final point. There's a bit of a cloud over everything at the moment. It seems weird. We talked about this at length on Sunday after the Fulham game, but there is a little bit of a cloud over everything at the moment. Even though we're on the verge of winning the title, form's not been good, and a lot of that, as well as the knowledge that the team might be about to be broken up. And we don't know what to expect next year. There's a lot of uncertainty. So this puts at least one of those concerns to bed. Virgil seems imminent. It's a nice boost at the right time going into the game at the weekend that should give everybody heading to Anfield on Sunday a nice little lift, and hopefully it's a good win on a sunny day, and a couple of Mo Salah goals is going to make everybody feel a hell of a lot better heading into these last few games. Yeah,
and I wonder if that was deliberate. Like, because this, for all we know, this may have been agreed a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But we just don't know. But the timing of it, as you say, we do need a lift. Bizarre as it sounds, with an 11-point lead, something to just lift the mood of everyone. And it is supposed to be nice and sunny on Sunday. It's meant to be 20 degrees. So,
nice.
Yeah, looking forward to that. But that, I think that's, and West Ham. I don't want to touch wood, don't want to jinx anything. But West Ham at Anfield is like a perfect opponent for the situation we're in, really. Or they should be. If they're not, then that's a problem. But yeah, it should be one of those, Anfield should be like bouncing, sun shining, Mo's got his new contract. It'd be nice for Mo to click back into gear now that all of this is sorted. Because he's gone through, up until the last month or so, it's not affected him. Now, I'm not even saying it's the contract that's affected him now, because we don't know, but he's not been himself for some time now. It'd be nice if he can end the season strong, because if he ends the season strong, it'll carry the team along with him, because we've seen how when his form dropped off, look what happened to the team. That's his importance to it. It was he should be allowed to have a spell where he's not at his absolute best, and when that spell comes, the team should be able to make up for that and, get him through it. And that's not happened. It's Mo's form.
Like Sadio and Bobby used to.
Yeah, Mo's form fell off a cliff and the team just spluttered because of it.
Yeah.
So we need him to get back to scoring and creating, and then hopefully we can have like a strong end to the season, because this limping to the finish line is just not gonna help the mood. But this was a nice little boost for everyone, and hopefully we get another boost on Sunday with like not just the 3 points but a performance, just to chill everyone out and just reassure, like, you know, the likes of us who are just a bit like, oh, what's going on here? I need a nice convincing performance just to relax everything again, and then just let us enjoy the run-in then.
Absolutely. And, you know, although me and you are happy, you know, I think the vast swathes of the fan base are really happy today. This is a sad day for one member of the TLW family, poor Stu. He's going to be struggling today. How's he doing?
Not great, to be honest. No, he's actually been fine about it. He's putting on a brave face. Yeah. He was quoting all sorts of stats and stuff earlier, and yeah, but one thing I asked him about, because he was actually giving Mo some praise, but he also made the point, Rushy's numbers, like Rushy's so far ahead, and Rushy didn't take penalties, and it's like Rush to get the total that he did without taking penalties is crazy. Obviously Mo's taking penalties, but that doesn't diminish what he's done by any means, because you've still got to score them, and having a reliable penalty take is important anyway. But yeah, I asked him about like goals per 90, non-penalty goals per 90, because that's the way to, it's the best way of judging it, just purely on a goal scoring point of view. And he found some stat with it. I'll just read it out to you now. So, who do you think has got the best goals per 90 without penalties in history? Obviously, there'll be a limit in how many. Yeah, for Liverpool, like how many games you must have played the minimum games to do it. But these are all players who you'll know.
So, without penalties, well, Rashi obviously.
No.
But if you remove all penalties.
Yeah, so no penalties. Take penalties out of it, and it's purely on how many minutes for them to score a goal.
Okay, so
I'll give you the number of the one with the best record is a goal every 135 minutes.
Fowler?
Nope.
Torres?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next is 138 minutes.
And that's not Fowler either?
No. Fowler did take a lot of penalties, don't forget.
Yeah. Suarez?
Yeah, Suarez. Next one is Gordon Hodgson, 151. Okay. Number 4 is an interesting one. Every 155 minutes, he averages a goal. I don't think you'll get this one, like, because it surprised me.
No, go on.
Jota.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I suppose that speaks to how often he's been fucking out injured.
Yeah. He's actually equal with somebody else.
Okay, you might as well read him off.
Roger Hunt.
Okay.
Next is Mo and Michael Owen. Both of them on 161 minutes per non-penalty goal. And Rushy's 166.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. If you look at the games and goals ratio and the appearances and that kind of stuff, like I think Rushy's on slightly 1.91 games per goal, and Mo is on 1.262 games per goal. So if you probably did remove the pens from that, it would probably be about the same.
Yeah,
about the same level. So yeah,
Rushy's numbers will be massively skewed by when he got older. Like if you take like his older seasons out where he's not scoring as many, he was kind of a foil for Fowler, wasn't he? He was just there as a mentor. Now you take those seasons away and the numbers from that, and Rushy's numbers are probably like astronomical, especially from like his first spell.
Right, fair enough. We are getting a bit off track here, but
I know that's because you brought up Monty, and then I ended up coming up with fucking nerdy stats. It's always the way.
The Stew effect. All right. So I assume you and all the lads are off to Anfield on Sunday, 2:00 kickoff. So it shouldn't be a problem in recording Sunday evening when you'll get out.
Yep.
I'll be looking forward to hearing that like the rest of us. Thanks for making time today, Dave. We had a few requests on social media for an emergency pod, so good to fulfill those and get those out on a day that we've been waiting for the last 6 to 9 months. Mo Salah extending his stay at Liverpool, arguably the most influential player to bring us this 11-point lead at the top of the table as well. Arguably the next most influential player will be signing in the days to come. So yeah, looking good for next season. Hopefully we can bolster that with some new signings as well, and carry the momentum of what's hopefully going to be a historic 20th league title win into another campaign. Thanks for listening. Dave and the boys will be back after Sunday, and until then, we'll catch you soon.